You're listening to the Post-Fades Cheesesteaks podcast, where your hosts, Tim and Dakota, discuss everything football, Philadelphia sports, and much, much more. Streaming weekly on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can find us on Instagram at PFNCS and check out our Etsy shop at the link in the bio. Thank you for listening, and let's roll right into this week's episode. Alrighty, welcome back. Another episode of Post-Fades Cheesesteaks. Got myself Dakota, got Nick back on. How we doing, Nick?
We're doing well. Just took my daughter to her first dance class. So if you ever feel old,
how was that?
It was emotional. It was definitely an emotional experience.
You're growing up. Isn't that something sweet?
Oh man, they grow up too quick.
Yeah, you got two now, so I'm not trying to catch up to you anytime soon, but it's fun to watch from the sidelines, you know. Anyways, this episode, Nick and I are going to focus on the top 30. Well, we're going to predict every quarterback that's going to start for every team at the start of the 2023 season. So basically, we'll go through because we haven't had draft yet, we haven't had free agency yet. I think we only have one significant quarterback signing so far.
You could argue. You could argue there's been three.
Okay.
Three quarterback signings or extensions.
Fair enough. Fair, yeah. So basically we'll start NFC East. Nick will go first. He'll do Eagles, Giants, Washington, Cowgirls. And then I'll let him say his spiel, and then I'll do my four, and then we'll flip and we'll go through the divisions. And if there's any absurdity, obviously we'll debate it. But so yeah, Nick, let's start off. Like I said, NFC East I think is pretty set except for one team, but how's that division looking?
So I mean, yeah, the three of them are obvious. I mean, obviously, Hurts, Dak, and I can't even call him Danny Dimes anymore with the $160 million contract. I don't know what we call him anymore.
Danny Duffel Bags or something.
Yeah, something.
That's crazy money. Oh, I mean, he's a quarterback, so
yeah. The only wild card, I guess, is Washington, which is tough because they're not in a real position where they have a good enough pick to go young. They're not really a position where I can see a high value veteran wanting to go there. Especially knowing the Eagles and the Cowboys are in that division. I go back and forth whether they let Sam Howell start week one. I think, honestly, it might be the sort of position where there is not a better option. And I don't think they're in a position where they're going to overspend on a veteran quarterback. I think they're going to bring in a journeyman type guy to kind of quote unquote compete with Sam Howell, knowing they really want Sam Howell to at least start the season. And it's kind of like, if you got something, you got something. And if they suck, then you get a high pick the next year. So they're a team, I think they bring in some, not Ryan Fitzpatrick, but a Ryan Fitzpatrick type.
Okay.
And they bring him into camp, but ultimately week one starter, I think, is Sam Howell.
I agree. I think they do. They're a weird team where they just can't figure out the quarterback, and they have good talent around. Like, they have good skilled players, pretty good defense when they're playing all together and they're healthy. Obviously, a solid line. So, but I agree. I think Washington's going to end up with Sam Howell as their starter. Obviously, Cowboys is Dak. Giants gave Danny Dimes crazy money, but you kind of have to pay, to get a solid quarterback. Like, he's not going to, I wouldn't say he's going to lose you games, but he's also not going to win you games type of quarterback. Kind of similar to another quarterback that just got a pretty big contract for where he's at in his career, but there's that. And then, yeah, Eagles, obviously, with Hurts. We talked earlier before we were recording, but with, a lot of looming free agents, I do wonder if Jalen's going to get a massive. I mean, he's going to get paid, but I'm wondering if it's going to be bigger than we thought, because they're not really bringing anyone back so far that we know of that huge free agency class they have. So we'll see what that means. But yeah, NFC is pretty set.
let's chew on that for a little bit.
Oh,
What's your contract prediction?
I don't think it'll be like the highest current contract, but I don't even know. I mean, it's not going to be fully guaranteed. It's nothing like the Eagles aren't that
Yeah.
moronic. What is Pat Mahomes took a pretty team friendly deal, didn't he?
Yeah, his is like 10 years, 503, I think.
Um, let's see.
Right? 10 years like 503. And he's only going to be like the seventh highest paid quarterback in the NFL next year. So it's already a like steal of a contract.
So we have, oh, geez, okay, hold on. Oh, Mahomes, yeah, he is the highest paid over time, 450,000. That's fucking insane. Over till 2032. Yeah. So, which is pretty nuts. Then it's Josh Allen at 258 till 29. Russ 245 till 29. Kyler Murray, I don't know what he's doing there. 230 to 2029. Deshaun 230, 27. Daniel Jones is now right. Wow. Daniel Jones is higher than Dak, Matt Stafford, Aaron Rodgers, Matt Ryan, Derek Carr, Jared Goff, right? That's crazy. 160 till 27. So I think Jalen's probably going to fall. Honestly, I could see either right behind Pat or right behind Josh. So I would say, actually, no, I think he'll be above Josh. I'm going to say like 285 over like 5, 6 years. Yeah, it's got to be. It's not going to be Mahomes, but his is also over 10 years or whatever it was. But it's going to be more than Josh Allen, I think, who's the second highest. What do you think?
I think they're going to go Mahomes-esque type, a deal. I think the Philly sports have seen the value of stretching out a contract. I mean, look at a Bryce Harper contract and
Yeah,
how much it first people go crazy because they see the big number, but in reality, especially what it does for team building, I think especially if you look at like Howie's desire to push money down and what he could do with cap manipulation if he spreads it out. And I think if you think about the way they like to restructure all the time and do this with their highest salary guys, it's the best case scenario for them to do. I don't think they'll do 10 years. I think they'll do but I do see like a 7 or an 8. And I think if he gets up to an 8, I think you could see a number like a 350, a 360. And it's not going to be AAV as much as long as the others guys, but I think they'll make it up with guaranteeing a good chunk. I think they'll give him enough guarantee because I think he's also going to want to make sure he's actually competing for Super Bowls.
mm-hmm.
He's not a guy who I think wants to just get paid and he wants to like scrub every penny. In a weird way, I think that this Super Bowl loss probably. I'm not going to say he's going to take a team friendly discount because I don't think anybody should do that. But I do think he's going to like think more about like roster construction and the ability to keep AJ with him through his
Yeah,
tenure and Devontae with him through his tenure because AJ's already got 100 million on the line. He's about to eat up a big chunk of cash. They're going to have to pay linemen. This team invests very heavily in the O line. And I think if you don't want Devontae to walk on a second contract, because if you look at it, he's probably playing himself for $100+ million contract. So in order to do that, he's going to have to stretch it out. I think 7 or 8 years. He's young enough. He's also like a pro enough. I'm not really worried about him at 30.
mm-hmm.
I think he'll probably still even be getting better as a passer. He probably won't run as much at that point as we've seen with other guys.
Yeah,
But I'm saying 7 or 8 years. I think the total value is going to be closer in that 350, 360, possibly 380 range. And I think they'll guarantee about 250 of it. So he'll get like one of the largest guarantees, but he'll give up the quote unquote AAV so that they can build a team around him.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of the Eagles contracts typically have pretty high guaranteed money. Um, but looking at like Mahomes is kind of wild. It's 63 million fully guaranteed, and his total value is 450 million. Like that's kind of wild to me. Meanwhile, you look at, I mean, I'm just looking, it's like just a spreadsheet I'm looking at. You look at the Deshaun Watson total value, 230 million, fully guaranteed, 230 million. Like that's insane. My only concern is that giving him 7 to 8 years with a high guarantee, the way he plays, I am a little worried. I mean, he's built to last, but even Cam, we see he's a bigger dude too, but he took a beating and it ended up, not paying out phenomenal for him. Now I think Jalen's a better passing quarterback than Cam really developed into. I think Cam hit a wall. Um, but
I think the difference is though, I think that the other quarterbacks who did that, like Jalen could be a pocket quarterback and still be extremely effective.
oh,
And
absolutely.
I think that they need to get his design run number down. So let's it always be a part of his game because that's what makes him so explosive. But like I think if that number cuts down closer to 7 or 8, which he was around 13, 14 a lot of this year, um, you know, I don't have the bigger worry.
Yeah. Now that I think about it more, I do think it's actually going to eclipse 300.
Because you also got to remember, like Herbert needs a new deal right now. Burrow needs a new deal right now.
Yeah, he's going to set the
Uh,
market.
like I think a Burrow and a Herbert though I see taking like a shorter big number.
I agree.
I think they're going to go more for the on the high end of the AAV and like their per year will be higher.
Yeah.
Um, but just sort of knowing Jalen's difference, I think he's going to be more about like know I have security, know I can be somewhere. Like he's like what I like to call like a build a statue player. Like
Mm,
he's a guy who early in his career, I think he realizes like I'm somewhere where they could build a statue of me at some point. And I think the way in which he like has won over the city is very Philly. Nobody wanted me here. I was the underdog. Now I'm like in like it was such an interesting swing, right? Because like me and you were zooming together when they drafted him, right? And
yeah.
we were like really confused by the pick, and we were both like, man, we wish he went somewhere else because we really wanted him to have a chance. Like we
Hmm.
thought he was be Carson's backup, and they were going to waste him here. Not saying we saw this coming, but like we really liked him.
Yeah.
Um, and I think he's like that type of guy who's like easy to root for. Um, and just he's a relentless worker. So I see him looking more just like if I know up front I'm going to make a quarter billion no matter what, and I know that you're giving me 7 8 years, and you know what, maybe like either it plays out where we extend at some point in there or something, or we got to keep restructuring so that I can, you know, allow players around me to still be here or bring in a piece or two.
Yeah.
Um, he just seems like the quarterback that would take that approach to me. And Howie's the GM that takes that approach.
I hope so. Part of me deep down does think like while Jalen has that team first mentality, he's also going to say, look at how much adversity I've gone through. Like, if you're not going to pay me what I think I deserve, like, not in like an aggressive way, but like, you know what I mean? Like, he'll say, I know I can get that. I know I can get more money or whatever, but they'll get a deal done.
They'll get a
Um,
deal. They've been open about it. Like I've never seen a team so much like we're gonna pay this guy. Like literally, like Howie is like we're gonna pay this guy.
this
You know,
this this year went from can Jalen Hurts be the guy to wow, how much money are we going to give him?
like he's gonna get paid. It's just gonna come down to what matters to him, right? Like, is it does I mean he might say, you know what, hey, I want a 3 year 150 because I want to cash in again.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
He could go anywhere with this. But I think again, it's not like I know him personally, but it feels to me in the way that he like carries himself like he's gonna get paid. He'll get a big guarantee, and I think especially if I'm him, right? Like why potentially risk hundreds of millions of dollars if you can get 250 guaranteed right now with a possible up to 380? and just get that done now. You know, you got a quarter billion coming,
Mm-hmm.
possibly up to 400 million if you can stay healthy. Versus he goes in next year. Let's say he gets hurt week one, and then he goes into free agency. Now, like all that money that was you were definitely going to get is like all up in the air. Like if I'm him,
Mm-hmm.
you're still getting something, right? Like I think people like Bryce Harper's big thing was like, I wanted stability. I'm starting a family. I want stability.
Right.
He's nowhere near the top paid baseball players. Like he's like the 22nd highest paid player in baseball this year, but he got a third of $1 billion. So like he knows
Yep.
he's good. Like
Yeah.
there's no, you know what I'm giving into like maximizing, which is what Mahomes did, honestly, because
Yeah.
he could have kept doing a 4 year 210 and then a 5 year 320. Like he could have made more money, but knowing he was going to be good and just like cementing himself feels more like the way Howie and Jalen would approach this.
Yeah. One last thing before we move on from that. When does it get done?
That's tough because the big ones usually don't get done till the summer. But at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, the Eagles' issue is that's going to dictate what this team does,
Yep.
right? Like he's the biggest set now, and it's not next year's salary cap, but that changes if you bring in a veteran, if you go young draft heavy, if you sign a guy to a 2, 3, 4 year deal, like that's kind of the issue with like a CJ is you
Yep.
could afford CJ next year, but the following year when he's 18 million at safety, and now all of a sudden you're paying your quarterback, and AJ Brown's contract doesn't start kicking in until next year. So now you got your two large new contracts on your team. Like I think whether it gets inked sooner, I don't know, but I think the framework so that Howie knows what he can go out and do is probably almost done. I think that's pretty worked through.
Mm-hmm.
Just whether or not they're like breaking news, this is the contract. Um, I don't know how those quarterback dominoes are going to fall. I don't know if he goes first or Burrow goes first or Herbert goes first, and like who's waiting for who to blink first. Um, and then who's going to like just change the numbers by like minuscule amounts just to like be the new highest paid. Um, but I I have a feeling the framework is already kind of worked out and whatever they're kind of deciding and the final details and numbers and injuries and all that stuff that they're probably working through.
Yeah. I like you said, it'll be interesting. I was I think more confident in the Eagles free agency post season, like after the regular season ended, but now it's like maybe they really aren't gonna sign a majority of these guys. I didn't realize I mean I'm not too upset about it, but I didn't realize Gardner Minshew was a free agent too. So
Yeah, yeah. I feel like this was a sort of my initial thing. I think it has changed post like Super Bowl. It's kind of like all right, they'll bring back CJ, maybe Javon, maybe Bradbury I knew was gone. I felt like the
Bradbury's yeah, I think Hargrave's just gonna get paid, honestly.
yeah, he's gonna go somewhere else. And I think Bradbury honestly ends up in Arizona with Gannon. He had his best year with
Yeah,
Gannon.
I've been hearing that too.
I think CJ is gonna end up in the Ravens too. He loves Denard Wilson. I think pairing him with Kyle Hamilton like would not shock me
Yeah.
at all. But and he also has that Ravens type edge to him.
They
Like he
always get the good secondary players. It pisses
but
me
he
off.
doesn't he feel
He
like a Raven?
does. He
Like
does.
he feels like a ball like
He's got that Ed Reed energy.
yeah, I would respect that if he did that.
Oh,
But
fuck it.
I do feel like this team sort of feels like the replenishing this defense is a 2 year process. You're going to
Hmm.
get a couple blue chip players through the draft this year. I don't think you're going to see any veteran signings that's sexy. None.
They don't have
Like
the money.
no, they're not. You're going to see any. I think they'll draft some guys high that they'll have big plans for. They'll go into next year with a ton of picks. Um, Maybe you see one of those picks next year get traded for a veteran, but I think they're using these 2 years to get young. Again, you get big contracts coming up. I mean, AJ and Jalen alone on that offense are going to cost huge, huge money. And then
Yeah.
Devontae's contracts coming up. Like you can only pay so many people. I think they're going to turn into more of the Chiefs-esque team. The offense is going to be stellar, and we're going to score a ton of points, and the defense will be serviceable.
Time will tell. But we've gone on a tangent like we always do.
Yeah.
Back to quarterbacks. NFC West, I'll do this one then. So Rams, Seahawks, Cardinals, Niners, all pretty set in stone. I think Stafford comes back healthy for the Rams, maybe plays another year or two, then he retires. Seattle, obviously Geno Smith got his extension. Cardinals got a Murray. Niners is interesting
Yeah.
because on paper it should be Trey Lance. But I have a feeling that come first week of September, Brock Purdy's going to be starting.
Well, I would have said that if it wasn't for the delay in his surgery. So Purdy, I'm just looking at the ramping in his time. Like you said, first week of September, I don't think he'll be ready to play by first week of September. I think had he was able to come into training camp earlier, like healed, he'll be throwing in early summer, but he won't be full. I think Trey Lance is going to start the year for them based on health, but I have a sinking feeling like Purdy's the starter by the trade deadline. And
Yeah.
I'm not sure Trey Lance even stays on the roster.
Wow.
Yeah, I think they're gonna have to recoup some of what they gave up to get him,
Which
and
was ridiculous in the
which
first
was a
place.
lot.
Yeah.
And I think if you're the Niners, if you're gonna have the success you had with Brock last year, and then you're gonna let Jimmy Garoppolo walk, which they've already said they're doing, and then you give Trey another chance, and if he still looks like he can't play quarterback, because let's be honest, in what I've seen of him, do you know since if you go back to his high school varsity snaps, high school varsity, college, and his NFL career, he's taken less snaps than Tom Brady did last year.
That's insane.
That's a real number. Like the guy hasn't played a lot of football. And at some point, if the team goes back to Brock, like you can't keep him around.
Yeah.
Like
We've seen how that works in the NFL.
Oh, it's a cancer. It's an absolute cancer. And they'll have to dump him for picks. They're not going to get nearly what they gave up to get him. I mean, they'll be lucky to get a day 2 pick at this point for him. But I just think he'll start the season week 1. I think Purdy takes over by the trade deadline, and they move Trey Lance.
I could see it. Yeah, I don't see Lance as the long-term solution there for them. But you got Stafford on the Rams still?
To start yeah. I think this year felt just like that Super Bowl hangover kind of weird year for them. I don't actually think they're that bad of a team.
I mean, they were very injured, but
yeah, they had a lot of that. Some guys were playing not their best ball. I mean, obviously they let Bobby Wagner walk after another All-Pro season, which is amazing that even amongst how bad they were, he still had another All-Pro year. He is a freak.
Yep.
I do think that Jalen Ramsey's gone though.
And we can't afford him, but I would love to see Jalen Ramsey in Midnight Green.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is everybody keeps talking about these things about like them trading Darius. Like they would never do that. Do you want to know why?
I was thinking.
Have you seen the cap hit if they do that?
Well, they think this will be his last year though, because I think he's a free agent after this year.
He is, but because of the way they structured his contract, if they trade him, they have to pay his entire salary in dead cap.
Yeah.
Why? Do that. Why would you do that? Why would you pay somebody and then not? And he's like the second highest paid player on the team. So why would you do that?
Yeah.
It does, and that's a byproduct of Howie's system is like he got on the team early and he had no cap hit the first couple of years so they could build other people, and now it's his time to make. It's like Lane Johnson, like you got at some point you got to eat that money you're actually paying the guy. You don't get to keep like giving him $20 million checks and tell your salary cap you're paying $1 million. Like it doesn't. Eventually that money comes due.
Yep. But all right, NFC South. Saints obviously made a signing. Falcons, Buccaneers, Panthers. What do you see in that division?
This division's like crazy.
Crazy, terrible.
Because the only team I think is a guarantee is the Saints. Obviously going out and paying Derek Carr,
Derek Carr, yeah, who got less money than Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones.
Wild.
It is wild. Um, I will say though, what talking about a quarterback I was like wrong about. I thought he was going to be out of the NFL by year 5, and he's made a lot of money.
Derek
Um,
Carr,
yeah,
he's just a weird guy. He's very much a Kirk Cousins for me. Like he
yeah,
shows you these flashes, like, wow, this guy could be really good, and then he just can't. He's just not consistent at all.
no, yeah. There's so many different things with these teams. Kyle Trask for the Buccaneers. I just they don't have picks and they don't have money.
Oh
So
yeah.
like by just natural consequences, I think he probably is their week 1 starter. But that's I'm pretty much saying like this year is just a complete rebuild, gut job. Um, they're letting everybody walk. I mean, they cut their left tackle. They're letting Leonard Fournette walk.
Yep.
Like they're just getting rid of everybody. They're burning this thing down to the studs. So because of that, I think Kyle Trask is a week 1 starter because they're just offloading salary cap at this point.
Mm-hmm.
They're paying Brady $35 million this year to be retired, so they're probably just going to stick with Trask. The Panthers are an interesting. The Panthers and the Falcons are interesting to me because I think when we look at like this whole Lamar Jackson thing, right? Like everyone keeps saying the Falcons are
I don't.
like
It's not. I don't see it happening.
everyone's like that's the landing spot for him, right? Like, but I think it's because it makes too much sense. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Like, or like their owner very much likes that type of player. They've got money to do it. It's just one of those things I don't fully see happening.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also not like totally sold on Desmond Ritter.
Oh, nobody is.
It's kind of one of those things like who I could see, and it wouldn't be sexy, but I could see is Ryan Tannehill going over
Mm,
to Atlanta
mm,
because he was um their coach was the Titans offensive coordinator. So if you look at it in 1920 when the Titans were a better offense. So if you look at it as like maybe we have a little bit of a resurgence, maybe we've been figured out do we have something in Kyle Pitts? Do we have something in some of these other people? Then possibly you go that way. In Carolina, uh, God, they're going to draft somebody. I do think Will Levis ends up there. It feels like a very Will Levis spot to end up with Frank Reich.
yeah, I have Will Levis to the Panthers.
Yeah.
Um, Carr for the Saints. I think they're gonna rock with Desmond Ritter. I just you have to find out what you got in him. I mean, they benched Mariota, who's playing okay, to
Mhm.
let Desmond Ritter play, so that's got to be something. And I have, I don't know if it's gonna happen, but it's just kind of a fun thing to say. I feel like Bucks, since you said they're gonna, they're rebuilding, they're a little bit of a mess. I could see Jameis Winston going back there, little
Ah,
second tour.
yeah,
So,
I could
so
see that.
I'll put Jameis Winston there for the
I could,
Bucks,
I could see that.
and then he can kind of coach up, the young guys. But um, this next division's also like the same kind of like, well, it could be interesting, it could be not. NFC North. So Bears, Justin Fields. I don't know why there's still questions about this. Like they wasted all that. They went out and got him, made him the guy. They aren't supporting him, but you're not going to find anybody else better right now.
No.
Jared Goff, I think is I hate to admit it, but he's playing much better than he gets credit for with the Lions.
Yeah.
And then Vikings, Kirk Cousins in his last year, he'll ride that out. The Packers is interesting. Is I nobody understands anything that Aaron Rodgers says or does. But I think this is like the fun. We've had the boil. It's been boiling for what, years and years now. I think he finally gets moved. I'll say later what that is, but
Mhm.
I'll pencil in Jordan Love for the Packers starting this next year.
I would agree. I would agree with that.
All right. Well, if that's agreed across the board, AFC East. What do you got for that one?
The good old AFC East. So I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I'm not fully, fully, fully sure Tua comes back next year. Like, it sounds crazy, but like,
Yeah,
I'm
I penciled him in, but I was like, I wrote it down. I was like, is he actually gonna be able to play though?
yeah, like, and I go back and forth from just like all the people over my lifetime that I've known with multiple concussions, and then seeing him
Mm-hmm.
get hit on two separate occasions with clear concussions already happening. Um, he hasn't made a ton of money, but he's if he's smart with it, like he's made enough to be like, hey, let me get out of here with like my head still attached to my shoulders.
Because I don't know if a team's gonna pay him when the time comes.
I don't think so, and
Yeah,
I think if you look at it and you see that writing on the wall, I mean, he was a first round pick, so you got to remember a lot of his money was a signing bonus.
yeah,
Like he's already got a lot of the cash he was going to get. Their salary is not much. So, okay, he gives up a couple million, but like he's not getting these quarterback contracts we're talking about this year. He's not getting one of those.
yeah.
Who would do that? So, I'm not even fully sold that he's back. I will say he's back, but it would not shock me in the slightest
Mm.
if he doesn't, return. Um, the Jets, I think, is A Rod. I think
You think
that's like
that's
that's the
okay?
landing spot. That's the landing spot. I think they make that happen. Zach Wilson may be the worst quarterback I've ever seen. Um,
I said that, but when the draft started, I was like, if the Eagles draft this motherfucker, I might not watch
well,
because I thought he was that bad.
do you know what I hate is like it's such a like typical NFL draft thing to happen.
Oh yeah.
All year, every single person thought Justin Fields was the second best quarterback behind Trevor Lawrence. All year.
Hmm.
No one questioned it, nothing. Then the year ends, he's still the second best quarterback. We all of a sudden get to the combine and everything and the pro days. Zach Wilson makes one throw in the underwear Olympics with no shoulder pads, no helmet on, no on air, and
Underwear
all of a sudden
Olympics.
he goes up to number two. The guy couldn't even be a captain at BYU. What college quarterback is not a captain? That should
Yeah.
have been red flag number one. Uh, and unfortunately, it's the thing which I hope is starting to break now that we look at how many black quarterbacks are as good as they are. Is this happens every year? The black
Hmm.
quarterbacks drop and the white quarterbacks rise up the boards. Mac Jones was drafted, in number 15 in the first round. When in the pre-draft process, we were like, maybe he goes by the third.
Yeah.
Like, it's just amazing to me how you can pencil in the black QB will drop and the white QB will rise. Now, all these significant starters and seeing what Mahomes and Hurts and Lamar and Deshaun before he was doing his weird stuff, but like
Dak.
you Dak, like you've got a lot at Kyler Murray, like
Hmm.
you've got a lot more now when you didn't have them before. But no, a long way to say I think it's going to be A Rod.
Well, I do hope in the draft we don't see. I would say Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud is the one two, and then
Yeah,
Will Levis. But hopefully Will Levis doesn't, all of a sudden go number one overall to the Texans. That would be
oh
different.
no way, no
That would be
way,
different.
no way. Um, Patriots. I think this is the make or break for Mac Jones. I
Oh, I
think
agree.
I
Yeah.
think this is the make or break. I'll still give him week one, but I think it's gonna be more of a battle with Bailey Zappi than like other people
Bailey's.
think. Um, and then the Buffalo Bills, obviously Josh Allen. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. I gotta make it a little spicy in the AFC East. So the first three are normal. So Allen with the Bills, Mac Jones with the Patriots. But like you said, I think, like a tight leash. He'll be right back in the doghouse if he plays like crap again. And Finns, yeah, we'll go with Tua. See, hopefully he's healthy. You never know with that. Jets. I thought about this for a while, and I was gonna say Aaron Rodgers, but something about Lamar Jackson
Hmm.
going to the Jets
Hmm.
just
I
feels
thought
like
of
with that offense and those weapons, I just feel like it's a better fit because that'll be a pretty quick offense. Um, so that's where I'm going with the Jets. I think Lamar Jackson. I think he gets traded there. Um, and the Ravens, they'll figure it out. But yeah, Lamar Jackson to the Jets.
that. Okay. That's definitely one I considered.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't. I could see Aaron Rodgers, but again, he's nearly unpredictable. I can't even speak. He's not predictable. So yeah. As far as the next division, so we have AFC West. This one set in stone besides the Raiders. So Russ with the Broncos, Mahomes with the Chiefs, Herbert with the Chargers. I think it makes almost too much sense for Jimmy G just to move, down a little, go to Vegas. Um, so yeah,
His old
yeah,
OC.
yeah, I can see. I mean, I don't think the Raiders are going to draft a quarterback this year, so I think they'll bring in Jimmy G to start that on that team.
So I think the Jimmy G, Josh McDaniels connection makes him
Obvious.
like oh this could make sense.
Hmm.
I see Jimmy G though like more on the Dolphins as the
Mm.
two insurance.
Okay.
Uh, that's where I feel like Jimmy ends in Miami, and then he's sort of the like we don't know what we've got with Tua, what's going to happen, um, and they kind of work that out. I think Lamar ends up in Vegas.
Really?
Yep,
Okay. I like it.
yep. I think he ends up in Vegas. I think
He gets a real wide receiver.
he gets a real
Whoa.
wide receiver. You've got a brand new stadium, an owner that just moved him. Um, you paid a lot to get Devonte Adams.
Yeah.
Just to just turn around in 1 year after the money you gave him, after the assets you gave up for him. That's a tough pill to swallow. And Devontae is of a stature that you're not just gonna you have him, you're not gonna waste him. You're not gonna bring somebody in. They're not in a position where they can draft somebody high enough.
Right.
And there's really not any like big contracts other than Devontae on that roster. I mean, they franchise tag Josh Jacobs. Um, they could make the money work. And I think they're not necessarily in a position where the draft picks aren't going to do enough. You got to remember, they're still trying to sell seats. Like they're in a new place. They need to sell
Yeah.
season tickets. They need to get excitement. They need buzz. I mean, look at like the Los Angeles Chargers games. Like they're basically away games for those teams. Like
Yep.
there's teams that need to bring fans in, and Lamar will sell jerseys and he'll sell tickets, and that's what their ownership needs. So I think that's his landing spot is Las Vegas.
So we both had Lamar not with the Ravens. What percent is the likelihood that he is not the Ravens starting quarterback, you think?
Like 90.
Really?
It's first of all, they didn't even put the exclusive franchise tag on him.
Mm.
Like in like every report I've seen is they're like $100 million apart. Not like we're a little bit on contract. If they really wanted him, they would have gotten this done.
Yeah, they would have been done
They
already.
and they didn't even, we've all known he's wanted a contract. Um, and they didn't even exclusive franchise tag him. Like you're gonna let people come in and negotiate with him? It's that's not a team that want. They'll take the two first round picks and move on.
Yeah. All right. Lamar Jackson out of Baltimore. All right. So the rest of the AFC West is set in stone. AFC South, probably the one that's going to see the biggest shakeup besides the NFC South, funny enough. Um, so you said Tannehill to, did you say Washington? Is that what I heard?
No, Atlanta.
Atlanta. So then you have likely three new quarterbacks in this division. So what's that looking like so far? Without, Jaguars, obviously Trevor Lawrence, but the rest of the three.
Jags Trevor. Also, Calvin Ridley was officially reinstated, by the way.
Yeah, they're going to be nasty.
That offense is going to be scary.
All of a sudden, that what's his name? Well, I had something nice to say about a receiver from Arizona. Now I can't remember his name. What did they sign last year that we were like, what the hell are they doing?
Christian Kirk.
Christian Kirk. Keep him in the slot.
Although he did nothing in the Eagles game he went to in the Hurricane.
Well, yeah. But anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, this is division. Trevor's going to be at the top, and I think they're going to be a really good team next year. I think like 12-5 wouldn't surprise me.
I will say, if Ramsey doesn't go to like some, if he's not like forced to a certain team, I think he could end up back with the Jaguars. I feel like he still likes that play. He had like a highlight tape that he posted the other day with like him in his Rams and Jags gear. And I was like, I haven't seen you post Jaguar stuff in a while. So
yeah, he tweeted about them at one point, like saying he missed Duval, like when they were on that run. I could see that.
Yeah.
But so obviously Trevor, the Texans I think take Bryce Young. I think they move up to 1 and ensure they get him. They'll move up 1 spot. The Colts, I go back and forth on this. I could see them moving up and taking CJ Stroud, but I'm actually going to go with a little bit of the wild card answer here.
Oh.
So I think they do not trade up. They keep their picks, maybe even trade down a pick or two if they know that the team coming up is not going after who they go after. And I think this is the team that takes Anthony Richardson, because I think Shane Steichen is going to see what he did with Jalen Hurts, what he can do with a freak athlete quarterback. Anthony Richardson is an off the charts athletic freak. His tape is inconsistent, but I think Shane is going to look at that and say, look what I did with Jalen. The NFL is moving to you getting away from the pocket quarterbacks and more to the guys who can create and go off script and do this. And Anthony Richardson is going to bring a level to that team that I don't think, and anybody's really going to be able to have that combat for it. Now, is he going to be like probably pretty bad year 1? Yes. But I think Shane's going to be able to look at this and be like, okay, this is going to be a 2-3 year thing for me, which it wasn't like Jalen was super sexy out the gate. We like what we saw in that short sample size of the 4 games. We knew he obviously had a lot of timing to work on. His next year he came back. We saw like little spurts, and then this year he really put it all together. So I think that everybody thinks they're moving up for CJ Stroud, but I actually think they either stay or move back a couple spots and take Anthony Richardson. And that leaves me with the Titans. I think Jacoby Brissett, the Titans.
I've heard a little bit of that.
I think they'll go for more of a game manager type. I think this is a little bit of a rebuild for them too. I do think they move on from Derrick Henry because this is the last year of his contract and they're nowhere near competing. It just makes too much sense to move on if you're them. It doesn't make sense to re-sign him. It doesn't make sense to keep him on a team that's going to win 6 games. I'm getting nervous though because I keep hearing him to the Bills, and wow, would that be scary?
They need him though.
Oh my God, can you imagine the Bills with Derrick Henry? Oh,
I don't see it happening, but it would be something different.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have Texans, Bryce Young, Jags, obviously Trevor Lawrence, Titans. So my thing is this: I think like you said, they are going to be in a bit of a rebuilding, retooling. If they keep Henry, I think they bring back they have Tannehill back for a year. If Henry's traded, Tannehill's gone. This team is getting blown up. Maybe the Eagles go and trade, for a safety out there. Let's see. But then I think they're gonna let Malik Willis he looked like garbage, but you gotta let him play. You let him. He sat for half the year, played it here and there, looked like garbage.
He looks so bad though.
You give him the full off season, let him go into training camp as a starter, see how he does, and like you said, a rebuilding year. If they lost Derrick Henry, this team's nothing.
No.
So let him play. That's the only way you're going to find out what you have in him. If he can find ways to win games or play really well with a shitty offense, you might have something. If he's as bad as the team is, then you know what you got in them. So,
I mean, here's the only thing with that. If you do trade Derrick Henry and you cut Tannehill, you move on from him. I mean, I guess you almost want Malik Willis to start because if he sucks, you get a high pick anyways.
Exactly. The Colts, I think they're going to be a little dicey and takes TCU quarterback Max Duggan. No, just kidding.
No way.
I think it's, I don't know. They're that team that's like missed on quarterbacks time and time again in the last few years. And something tells me Jimmy Irsay's in, the GM's year already, well, yeah. I just think they're gonna make moves and get CJ Stroud. So I don't think there's any. I think Richardson has the most upside. He's obviously one of the most athletic prospects. But I don't know.
I mean, Stroud's the most pro ready.
He's going to be in
CJ Stroud is the most pro ready. If you wanted a quarterback to come in from this class, and
they still have a talented team when they're healthy.
Yeah, no, they do.
So I could see it. I think with Richardson, not to get too big into the draft, but I think with him he'll be that typical quarterback where we think he's going to go somewhere in the middle of the pack. But I think he's either going to go really early or he's going to go really late at the end of the first round.
Yeah.
Just quarterbacks are always so unpredictable and they're usually reached on. So I can see him going way earlier than he's, going to go based on his current play style.
There's always a surprise early in the draft.
Yeah.
And he, to me, is the guy that makes the most sense to be the surprise.
Yeah, I agree. So, all right. So we're down to our last division. And if you notice, there's one name I haven't said yet. So, to get the easy ones out of the way, Browns are going to have Watson. I think Pickett's going to be with the Steelers still. I think he'll play fine. Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. And since the Ravens don't have Lamar Jackson anymore, they take some of that capital and they go and get Mr. Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, God.
Isn't that gross?
They have nobody on that team from to throw to.
He's used to that. It's gonna be a very ground and pound heavy offense where Aaron Rodgers can kind of sit back. They'll get a receiver for him, target some guys. It'll be tailored towards his style, but he's not going to be thrown as much as he did with the Packers. Yeah, that's what. Because I don't think he goes to the Jets. Something I know it's so obvious, but it's something in me is just not feeling it. And then I don't see him going to the Raiders. That would be cool though to reunite with, his boy out there.
They took 1 year apart and then they're back together.
It's basically just like the Las Vegas Packers at that point. But I think he ends up in Baltimore. So that's my cherry on the top of this episode of predicting the 32 starting NFL quarterbacks. So,
all right, you ready to vomit?
What?
There's a wild card of a fella that I think makes his way over to Baltimore because for some reason this cat has 9 lives and just continues to keep coming back.
There's no way.
Even though he shouldn't.
There's no way.
And
shut up.
I think that Carson Wentz
becomes
the quarterback of the Baltimore Ravens
the
after they move on from Lamar. I think what's going to happen is they're going to bring him in on some stupid cheap deal, but give him a chance to be a starter. And I don't see any place else where, I mean, you can, I guess, if it's not there, the only other chance Carson even has a chance at a roster spot is the Panthers to go with Frank Reich. That's it.
I could see Tampa.
Uh, I think it's
Or or he just
I
takes a backup job. I don't know.
I can't see him. I can't see him being dude. His ego would not let him be a backup. I just can't see it.
Mm.
He crumbled when they drafted Jalen. Crumbled psychologically, like fell within himself.
So you're not rocking with Tyler Huntley, the Pro Bowl quarterback for the
Oh,
Baltimore Ravens?
that made me hate the Pro Bowl that they made him a Pro Bowl. Um,
Oh fuck.
no, I think they move on, and I think they try to sell to themselves that they can get something out of him for cheap. And yeah, I hate to say it. I don't think he's out of the league, but I also don't think that he's going to accept a backup role. I think the only team who won't have like the real position to draft somebody young, but is going to take that veteran shot. There's always that team that thinks they can find a guy to like fix,
Mm-hmm.
which is good, which is just going to make Ravens fans hate their ownership that they wouldn't pay Lamar Jackson, but then they took Carson Wentz. But I think he gets one last hurrah, one last one. He'll have an awful year because he doesn't have anybody, but I still think he'll get one more shot.
Boy, what a knife in the fucking stomach for Ravens fans though. That's like that. Well, we want Lamar Jackson. We have Lamar Jackson at home. It's Carson Wentz.
uh,
Uh,
I could see it. Like it's like sickening for me to think about because I just do not understand how this guy's still an NFL quarterback. Um, but I don't see him taking a backup role, or he'll be that guy who waits at home for somebody to get hurt. That wouldn't surprise me either. If he doesn't sign now and he waits until somebody gets hurt in preseason, um, kind of like that Cam Newton situation.
I will say the 2016 quarterback draft class of Jared Goff and Carson Wentz continue to keep us entertained. Like Goff, one, he looks like he's going to be the guy, and then he starts playing like shit. Then we think he's washed. Then he goes to the Lions, plays like shit. Then he gets better all of a sudden. Then he's like realistically a top 15 quarterback. Then Carson Wentz plays really well, gets hurt, plays like shit, gets hurt again, plays like shit, bounces around the league to three different teams.
In 3 years.
So crazy. Who would have thought? And lo and behold, who steps in at quarterback and leads Eagles to a almost Super Bowl victory? Jalen Hurts. What a time. All
Both,
righty.
both of his backups led teams to Super Bowls. Like,
Yeah. It's not a great look.
no.
To be fair, and this is the last nice thing I'll say about Carson because he's really soured on me. I do think they would have beaten Seattle if he didn't get concussed in the first 5 minutes of that game.
Yeah.
We don't
I,
know. We don't know what
I,
would have happened. But
I think they would. I think they could have beat Seattle. I won't argue that. I don't think they were going anywhere past that, but I think they could have won that game.
yeah. Yeah. So well, hopefully the Eagles make some frugal choices and that benefit the team. It'll be sad. I would say it'll be crazy if we wake up one day and instead of trying to re-sign Garner Johnson, it turns out to be Bradbury that takes a team-friendly deal and stays to play with Darius Slay for one more year or something stupid like that. But
I don't. While James had a great year this past year, like I'm not in love with the 230-year-old corner idea. Like I'm
oh, neither am
just
I. I want them to draft a guy, you know, top 10 and insert him into the starting lineup. But That's just me.
Like I'm in the position where I'm willing to give Slay an extension, add 2 years onto it, spread some
Yeah.
money. He's still playing at a high level, but that's with the caveat that they draft somebody high this year who can become the CB1 in a year or two, and Slay becomes CB2.
Yeah. Now I don't know how, because obviously there's like the whole tampering period stuff, but obviously agents talk to teams beforehand. Do you think there's a chance? Let's say that yes, the Eagles lowballed CJ. Part of me thinks that there's a chance that he doesn't get what he's looking for in the market. Like to his, maybe he's asking way too much and he thinks he can get it and he doesn't. Do you think he comes back to the Eagles and says, let's try again. Let's renegotiate again."
I think if we get past the first 3 days and he's not signed, I'll feel confident that he'll come back to the table. But I don't know. We saw safeties get a lot of money last
I
year.
know. I
It's to
know.
new teams, like safeties to new teams, not their own teams. So
We'll see. It's
I
a
think
shame, but
I think he'll get it. The only chance that he doesn't is if other teams aren't willing to jive with his personality. Because that was part of the Saints' reason for moving on from him is they didn't like his quirks and his like stuff and like his like that's a Philly thing and that works. Like Philly will love you for that, but like
mm,
some organizations like Slay is a kind of an off dude. Like that was why the Lions were so okay to move on from him, and him and Patricia hated each other. But like only certain locker rooms can take stuff like that on. Like
mm,
it'll depend. I think he gets paid somewhere. I think he was tied for NFL lead in interceptions, only playing 12 games. He
yeah,
can play slot corner. He can play safety. He can play in the box. He can roam. He could play in any scheme. Like he's a hard hitter. Um, it's hard not to like. He's a guy you like to
yeah.
build.
I mean, we still when does we have a couple weeks still, I think, or two maybe. I forget when free agency starts. It's usually the end of
Next
March,
week.
isn't it?
Starts next week.
Oh, already.
Yeah.
All right, so we're
Legal
fucked.
tampering's next Monday. Other teams can talk with him next Monday, and then next Wednesday is the actual free agency.
So yeah, Wednesday starts free agency, which we usually find out like Tuesday who's getting signed. And then what March Madness starts on like Thursday or Friday. It's gonna be wild. Hi Ava.
She said she wanted to sit on my lap. Say hi.
Uh all right.
Yep.
Oh,
So tampering starts Monday. Legal tampering starts Monday. So agents can talk. Teams can talk with other team. Agents can talk with other teams, not just their own team. And then
right.
free agency is Wednesday.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think they'll announce some deals early next week. Um, I think CJ's gone. I think Hargrave's gone. I think Bradbury's gone.
Yeah.
I feel a little bit more like Edwards might be back. Um, but
If
we'll see.
yeah, I mean we could this could go there's so many different rabbit holes. I do think if they end up not signing a large majority of these big name guys, not that they necessarily need him back, but I could see Miles taking another 1 year and just saying, "Yeah, let's play one more." But we'll see. But all right, any final thoughts on quarterbacks?
No, I think it's going to be the draft will be one of the bigger things, and then what happens with Rodgers and Lamar Jackson, I think, are going to be the other sort of
Yeah,
real
it'll be
spice.
in, it'll be interesting to see when those dominoes fall. I think Lamar moves before Rodgers, but I think Rodgers might be like a week before draft type. I think Lamar might be sooner, but
Yeah,
who knows anymore? We're always
Lamar would have to be
surprised.
Lamar would have to be soon because if a team's giving up 2 first round picks, that's going to change their entire draft
Oh yeah,
strategy.
yeah. They're not gonna do the day before.
No, so that would have to be something that works out like soon because you're going to change a lot of what you're doing if you're bringing him in and getting rid of 2 picks.
Yeah. So, alrighty. Thanks again for always being ready to hop on. And yeah, I think this is we have pretty similar. Obviously, I said Lamar to the Jets. You said Aaron to the Jets. I said Jimmy G to the Raiders. You said Lamar. You said Carson Wentz to the poor Ravens. And I said Aaron Rodgers. So those are the big ones.
I throw a spicy one and I couldn't just stay like all like things that just people are reporting.
Ravens they got all the spicy. I mean, Rodgers and or Wentz, pick your poison.
Oh,
But
yeah.
all right, I'll catch you later.
All right. Always a blast.
Peace.